One, I'm sorry, we were running a bit late from previous other meetings. So I'm happy to make a few remarks and update you on the things that we have done pursuant to the President's instructions to accelerate and expand the development of our indigenous energy resources. And if you recall, one of the major items of emphasis of the President was on the upstream oil and gas sector, and that we would address any of the legal uncertainties as well over the upstream sector, because the gas, the natural gas of the country, for instance, is needed not only for as a backup or to regulate the variable renewable energy, but even before, it has been a major source of power, especially for the island of Luzon. So first, I am very pleased to announce that a DOE Law and Energy Advisory Panel has been created, and with the senior legal advisor's name. We want to make sure that we want to make sure that the recommendations to the President and the Congress coming from the Department of Energy are fully grounded on the Constitution, the laws of the land, and sound legal principles. And so we have created a DOE Law and Energy Advisory Panel with distinguished senior legal advisors from the private sector. And I am also pleased to announce that retired Chief Justice Artemio V. Panganiban and retired Chief Justice Renato Espuno have kindly agreed to provide the department with their guidance and advice. They will serve as private citizens and will not assume any public office. The full legal responsibility and accountability will continue to reside in the Department of Energy. Now, the functions of the Law and Energy Advisory Panel include advising the department on various energy-related reform initiatives and legal matters, including the promotion of indigenous as well as low-carbon sources. The proposed initial discussions will cover legal matters involving the country's upstream oil and gas sector in general, and will include the country's biggest gas-to-power initiative today, the Malampaya-Camago project. The advisory panel will also advise the DOE on the objectives, content, and overall substance of the energy sector's legislative agenda that cover alternative and new technologies. We have asked the advisory panel to also advise the DOE on improving legal processes to help achieve its mandate to improve the people's welfare in the energy sector and to encourage investments, especially from the private sector, towards ensuring affordable, sufficient, and sustainable supply of energy. Subject to the advisory panel's consent, the members or the panel itself may perform such other advisory functions as the advisory panel deems proper and may assist in communicating any aspect of the DOE's legal or policy initiatives which have been the subject of the advisory panel's advice. So I also just wanted to update you that along these lines as well, the legal cluster of the cabinet has looked at the issues on emanating from the JAPEX case ruling, the Supreme Court, way back in 2015, that it is the president who must personally sign the service contracts in order for them to be valid. And the legal cluster has come to the conclusion that the president may, the incumbent president, President Marcos, may, at his option, approve and sign the service contracts that remain effective and were issued since the 1987 Constitution was entered into force. And this will be the subject of consultations with the private service contractors on whether they will be amenable to this to the resubmission for the president's approval and signing of the service contract. So we hope to move forward as well on this with the private sector. So I think with those updates, we can now go and address some of your questions.
We have Nina, Velasco, who signified to have her first question.
Nina from the Bahamas.
Yes. Sec, kahapon pa ako nakapila sa question. I want to ask question now about the announcement that you've made. But I have two questions. One is regarding the nuclear study that was discussed in the Senate. Have you found it na? And second is regarding the rate hike petition of SMC and Meralco. I'm not asking about the regulatory aspect, but I'm asking about the part on the CSP. Would there be change in rules when it comes to yung parameters, what should be treated as a fixed cost pag in-approve ng DOE? And if there's a renegotiation, paano yan ititreat ng DOE? Sa CSP.
I think on your question about the competitive election process, we are looking at what is really fully covered by the mandate of the regulatory agency, the Energy Regulatory Commission, and what is properly the policy which is covered by the Department of Energy's mandate. So we will be issuing clarifications on this particular point in order to guide the public and the private sector.
Yeah. Sir, follow up lang on that. Kasi yung concern is, di ba pag may nananalo sa CSP, it should be the least cost, yung winning bidder. Pero since mag-change yan, eventually, may mga adjustments sa cost, pwedeng hindi na yan least cost at the time of the bidding. So how will you come up with that guidance na kailangan least cost? And then, pwede kasing magreklamo yung iba na mas mababa yung bid ko dati. Pero ngayon parang tumaas naman yung bid ng nanalo.
Yeah, no, definitely, Mina, there are lessons to be learned from the current situation that we have. That, as I have emphasized, I would not want to preempt the Energy Regulatory Commission, and they are studying these issues intently, and therefore we will be clarifying those matters, which ones should properly be within the mandate of the Department of Energy, because the CSP rules, if you recall, are also stated in broad terms, and what would properly fall under the mandate of the Energy Regulatory Commission, and learning from the current experience what particular or additional guidelines or rules the Energy Regulatory Commission can issue regarding the conduct of CSPs.
Yeah.
So definitely your questions are valid and in point, and I am confident that the Energy Regulatory Commission will come out with proposed solutions in due time.
Yes. Sir, may other question on the nuclear study na hindi mahanap.
Yeah, no. What is this? We have asked our current staff who are in charge to look for the study that was supposed to have been conducted. So I'm what is this? I'm still looking for the copy. So
Tutulong ako maghanap, sir. Tutulong ako maghanap.
Sige, that would be
Punta ako
good.
sa office mo.
No. It's not, definitely it's not in my office. And that's why this arose, if you recall, from a question of Senator Gatchalian, that the Senate provided certain amounts. And the amounts that have been released to the DOE have been spent for certain activities, including the conduct of a polling survey to determine whether or not or where the public stand with respect to nuclear power and so on. So I am going to have to orient myself on these things, because as you know, right now I don't have undersecretaries yet to assist me, and there are quite a number of things that demand our immediate attention right now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mirna. There are at least 3 questions here in the chat box. The first one is, what prompted the forming of this Law and Energy Advisory Panel? Are there specific legal problems facing the DOE at this time? The Secretary mentioned the Malampaya project. Will this be a primary concern for the panel, considering the amount of controversy around it under the previous administration?
Well, I think it's important to understand that when we are looking at the goal of developing our indigenous energy resources and to provide accessible and affordable energy to our people, as we transition to a low carbon future, there will be a number of issues that have to be addressed. And I have pointed out that one of those are legal uncertainties that have remained unresolved over an extended period of time. And that's why we are devoting time and energy for these. One is, I have already mentioned, the Supreme Court's ruling on the JAPEX case, Japan exploration case of 2015. And that's almost, what is this? That's already 7 years in effect. but the effects retroact to all the service contracts that were signed after the 1987 Constitution, but they were not signed personally by the President of the Philippines. Up to last year, the only service contract that was ever signed by the President was Service Contract 38 or Malampaya contract, which was signed personally by President Corazon Aquino. And the others that also need to be addressed. So down the line, when we, for example, talk about renewable energy and attracting foreign investments for, let us say, offshore wind that require a lot of foreign capital, we would have to deal with issues like, are foreigners allowed to invest more than 40% in, let us say, offshore wind and other renewables like ocean and tidal energy? So on this, we need also a firm legal understanding of what constitutes renewable energy that is capable of being appropriated by the state for itself. So these are fundamental questions, and we would like to be able to sound off our distinguished legal advisors on this. Now, on the Malampaya Camago project, it is, I would say, naturally arising from that concern to stabilize the policy and legal environment for the upstream sector. We know that we need to have further development of our gas and oil resources. And in order to attract sufficient investment for that, we need to be able to clearly indicate what are the policies of government on this. So these are the things that have motivated the department, particularly myself, to benefit from the wisdom and experience of our senior legal advisors, because whatever we are going to propose to the President and Congress will have fundamental effects on the lives of our people, not only in the present, but also in future generations. Thank you.
Another question here, this time from Elena. On the legal panel, what will be the coverage of the upstream taxes, sale of Malampaya? Can we get some? I think you've already touched.
Yeah, I think I have already touched on that, and then you can take a look at the terms of reference of the department order creating the law and energy advisory panel.
Another question from Elena regarding the resubmission of SCs for signature, service contracts for signature. Is this like changing the rules of the game midstream?
No, it's a case where we want to assist the private sector in order to stabilize precisely the legal framework under which they operate. For as long as we do not address this, then there will be a legal uncertainty on whether or not their service contracts are valid or not. If you revisit the JAPEX case, the service contract 46 was signed by Secretary Vince Perez, my predecessor, and it was only decided by the Supreme Court in 2015. And in 2015, the Supreme Court said the service contract was void because it was not the president who signed it herself. So we have to address that legal uncertainty.
Okay, Alena, thank you. Another question, but this is another topic on the bank gas bill with PNOC and SPTC. What factors did the PNOC consider to agree on this deal to be advantageous to the government? Does it need the DOE approval to sell the bank gas?
Well, I think that since this contract was signed before the present administration came into office, they are best addressed to the ones who entered into the contract at that time. And I am sure that the PNOC president will address those. But as I recall, 20 years ago, we already knew that there were physical, technical, and legal limitations on the lifting of the bank gas. The bank gas has been there from the start. And in our time, we were discussing how to monetize the bank gas. But knowing that it will have to be lifted or extracted over a period of time. And I am not sure on whether or not this contract considered those limitations, or whether the limitations in fact have changed. And so I would invite you to ask those questions of the PNOC President Posadas.
Okay. Another question here from the Tribune. Do you think there is urgency for the approval of the new investment in Malampaya exploration? Since experts says the gas will run dry before rejuvenation projects are finished.
Well, these are among the things that are being addressed right now. As far as you know, the PNOC Exploration Corporation is considering the matter of giving its consent to the sale of the Shell's interest. And as far as the Department of Energy is concerned, we would have to review the sale and the terms and conditions under this under which it's going to be made. But I can assure you that we will try to adhere to the timelines that are in the department circular that I issued in 2007 on the review and approval of transfers of interest in the service contract. Now I realize that the deadlines there are tight, but as much as possible, we would like to address address these issues within the framework of that department circular. Now, in subsequent days or probably next week, I will be announcing to you the technical and financial advisors that will assist the Department of Energy in reviewing the technical and financial aspects of the proposed sale. So I just want to assure you and the public that the Department of Energy will exercise the utmost care and diligence in reviewing these proposals. The main objective is to ensure that the Philippine government and the Filipino people will be able to take full advantage of this resource, and that within the framework of Presidential Decree 87, we look forward not only to the extraction of the existing resource, but that we also look to the full development of the other oil and gas resources of the country. We should always be forward-looking, and that's the framework that we are using. Thank you.
Okay, we have two more questions. This one
Two
is,
more?
two more in relation to Law and Energy Panel.
Yeah.
Will the Law and Energy Panel also discuss sovereign issues and cross-border contracts for oil and gas exploration?
Well, should the time come for doing so, it is something that I did not mention up front, but we will also have the benefit of the legal advice of these senior legal advisors.
Okay, last question. This is from Elena also, and this is on another topic. Some LNG projects were delayed due to COVID. Will this have an impact on summer supply given the high demand by the time and the inability of Malapaya to produce more gas?
Well, of course, Elena, as you know, delays like this would surely have an impact. But what is more important is what are we going to do in order to address potential shortages? So one of the things that the President has emphasized is the importance of energy efficiency and conservation. In other words, demand side management is very important in order for us to help manage or reduce the demand, especially during the peak hours. So this particular point, we will be emphasizing in the subsequent steps and actions to be taken by the department. But as you know, we already have an energy efficiency and conservation law that was passed by Congress, and the Department of Energy has been taking steps in order to implement the provisions of that law. So the rollout is very important, and including educating the public on how they can help through their sustainable consumption patterns to reduce the amount of energy that is needed to carry out the same levels of activity or to produce the same amount of volume of goods.
Sir, last two questions pahabol on the Law and Energy Panel. Pro bono po ba ang panel? That question came from Elena.
Well, Elena, I promised to provide our advisors with seashells, beads, or cacao. So if you want to volunteer cacao from Iloilo, I'm fine with that. And what is this? We will, of course, kidding aside, we will try to find ways to at least reimburse them for their costs, their gasoline, and so on. But definitely, they are responding to important issues that they themselves also recognize. And I am grateful to them. So in this case, to our two retired Chief Justices, and also to the advisors on the technical and financial aspects that have responded to this call to assist the Department of Energy.
Okay, last question. Can we expect for the resolution of the Malampaya takeover within the year?
No, I think what is this? If you examine the department circular, in fact, the schedules are quite tight, and those schedules, even if stretched a bit, I don't think that they would have to, go beyond this year. Two more?
Andrea,
Mira has a habol question.
Mirna, I thought you said you were not going to ask any more questions. Okay.
no, I didn't say anything like that. Sir, question lang. You mentioned in passing about RE. Is it something that the legal advisors would?
You're on mute, Mirna. Mirna, you're on mute.
Sorry, sir. Yeah, I have question about RE. Because you mentioned it in passing kanina about the legal advisors. Is
Yeah.
it something that they would have to tackle as well with the DOE,
Of course.
especially on the bid of foreign investors to lift the restriction?
Sure. No, because there are others who say that it involves constitutional issues, right?
Yeah.
But it's the Constitution. I happen to disagree because when we were working with Senator Miriam Santiago, who was Energy Committee Chair way back in 2007, she had agreed not to say anything in the law about a 60-40 requirement. And there is none in the law if you're going to examine it. But in the DOE's implementing rules and regulations, that was passed in, I think, 2008 or 2008. There is a mention of that. So that's why this particular issue has to be addressed, and to me, has to be addressed in the soonest time possible if we are to clarify the investment environment. Thank you.
Yeah. Sir, a follow-up lang. Since IRR yan, what will be the remedy? Pwedeng hindi na amendment sa batas? It can be done by circular or kailangan dumaan like sa Joint Congressional Energy Commission?
No, I'm sure that where Congress can help reinforce the executive position or interpretation, and that would be cognizant of the importance of that. But even as we speak, the Department of Trade and Industry, Secretary Pascual has been supportive as well of this particular proposal, and NEDA, which is the one that drafts and recommends the negative list. Do you remember the negative list for
Yes.
investment? So at least these two executive issuances need to be addressed, and that's why we would like to have the advice and guidance of our senior legal advisors.
Yeah. Sir, last na lang, sorry. Para hindi ko na tatanungin to sa next na press con. Yung FTAA for geothermal, sino yung signatory? Presidente or kayo?
No, I don't want to go into that at this time, because in the case of that, there is a what is this by provision of law, and if you talk about other FTAs, they have not been the subject of a Supreme Court decision.
Okay.
So if just to show you a difference in approach, in the case of foreign loans, the power of the president to enter into foreign loans is in the Constitution. But the Supreme Court itself has also recognized that the president has the power to delegate the signing or contract, the signing of these foreign loans, usually to the Department of Finance Secretary or to other representatives of the Philippine government. So there's a difference in the way they have treated these. And therefore, I'm not willing to say that just because the service contracts were ruled in this way, that all other FTAs or other similar contracts are also deemed void because of the JAPEX ruling.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sorry, last clarification na lang. What is the SC case that you're referring to when it comes to the FTAA na pwedeng mag-sign yung finance secretary? For ano lang?
Not FTAs. These are foreign loans.
The foreign loans. Oh.
Under the Constitution, the president may contract foreign loans, subject only to the, the recommendation of the Banco Central or the Monetary Board and reporting to Congress.
Yeah.
So you see, it's a different. It's the same presidential power, but it was decided in a different way. I mean, it's not the same presidential power. There are two separate powers, but they all reside in the same president, but decided in different ways by the Supreme Court.
Okay. So ano yung SC case that you're mentioning?
Ano?
Ano yung SC case that you're mentioning? Yung decision reference.
The title of?
Spouses Constantino.
Oh, the loans case?
Yeah.
Spouses Constantino
Versus Quisha.
versus Quisha.
Christian. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so Mirna doesn't know how to count.
Journalist ako. Kaya
No, you don't
konti
know
ang
how
math.
to count.
Konti ang math sa journalism. Parang sa law. Kaya hindi ka rin marunong. kaya nalilito ka rin sa count, sir.
Okay. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.